If you were to guess about how many times you checked your phone today, would you be able to tell me 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times? Well, the average person checks their phone over 300 times, not a day, by midday. So if you are like the average person, this is happening way too often. My name is Rod Esteves, and I am the founder of Master of Time. And today we're going to talk about a silent killer, something that's been dragging people's productivity down for way too long, and people don't even know. I'm talking about attention fragmentation. So stay with me, and you're going to know what it is and how to prevent it. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to battle attention fragmentation so you can live a more fulfilling and productive life. So let's start with the basics. What is attention fragmentation? Well, it is exactly what it sounds, which is your attention is broken down into tiny pieces, okay? I have a good comparison about what attention fragmentation really is inside of your brain, okay? It's like you have way too many tabs open in your brain. You know, when you're working on your computer, and I'm one of those who likes to work with a bunch of different tabs. I have tabs for productivity. I have tabs for, one thing that I'm doing, another thing. Well, I have a lot of tabs open. When that happens in your brain, you have too many tabs open. What happens is that you're consuming way too much energy, more than you need. So attention fragmentation is exactly what happens when your attention, your focus is going to multiple places. So no place is getting your full attention. So you don't need to be a genius to understand that that's very, very bad for productivity, right? Some people say that, I'm not switching tasks, I'm just multitasking, right? Well, but that's a myth, because according to neuroscience, you cannot multitask, you can only task switch. And task switching consumes a lot of energy. Multitasking means that you could do exactly 2 tasks at exactly the same time. Okay, so that's, when I'm talking about productivity, that's impossible. Okay, yes, you can go down the stairs and chew gum at the same time, so technically you're doing 2 things at the same time, but I'm talking about high productivity. I'm talking about tasks that are going to produce outcomes for productivity. Okay, so you have to understand that every time that you are engaged in one task and you have to disengage from that task to perform another task, which is task switching that I'm talking about, well, your brain needs to disengage from that to engage in something different. So every time you do that, you're spending energy. And you might ask, why is this bad for me? Well, according to Dr. Daniel Levitin from McGill University, this task switching produces increased level in your brain, increased level of cortisol and adrenaline, which are hormones that will cause stress. That's why it's so stressful when you have multiple tasks at the same time and you feel overwhelmed. And you end up feeling tired and stressed. It's almost like you're doing a mental CrossFit all day long. It's stressful, it drains you. And every time you allow attention fragmentation to distract you, well, you're not getting into deep focus mode. So what's the opposite of deep focus? Well, shallow focus, right? So shallow work. So instead of deep work, you're doing shallow work. So if you bring this to neuroscience, what happens is every time that you allow yourself to be in deep focus, what happens is your prefrontal cortex, that region right in the front of your brain, which is responsible for executive function, well, it works together with other parts of the brain. And this synchronization is called gamma wave synchronization. Basically, this is when your prefrontal cortex is orchestrating this dance with the other parts of the brain, and that's very helpful for deep focus. So attention fragmentation is going to break this synchronization. You know what I mean? So it's almost like when you're listening to an orchestra, right? Beautiful instruments playing together, And if something disrupts, if one of those instruments start playing not according to what they need to be playing, but starts playing something different, you most likely will hear that. And it's going to switch between a beautiful symphony to something that will sound weird. So that's exactly what happens when you allow attention fragmentation disrupt this deep work or this deep focus that your brain's trying to get to. And one of the most dangerous things about attention fragmentation is that every time that you hear that ping, you see that notification, well, your brain is giving you a release of dopamine. That's what happens. So your brain gets addicted, or you get addicted to distraction, to those small notifications, to being distracted, okay? And that's very dangerous. That's why deep focus needs to be trained, okay? Attention fragmentation is happening a lot more nowadays because of the increase of distractions, but you need to fight it, and you need to fight it with intention. Because this dopamine dysregulation, the amount of dopamine, small doses of dopamine that we are receiving because of the small distractions, what it's doing to the brain is that it's training your brain in a very dangerous and damaging way. And our ability to being satisfied in focusing in one thing is being diminished because we have so many touch points throughout the day, so many things distracting us. And what happens is that your brain is just getting used to that. And every time that you have to get into deep focus or in that flow moment, it's hard because you're not used to that. You're not training your brain to focus on one thing. And every time your brain receives that releases that jolt of dopamine because of the distractions, you get addicted to that. But the good news is that you can change that. And not because of you and your superpowers, but because of neuroplasticity. Your brain allows you to change things if you are intentional. So the brain that you have today is not the brain that is going to stuck with you forever. You have the ability to make those changes if you know the proper exercises. And like I said, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to prevent attention fragmentation. And when I talk about attention fragmentation and what it's costing you, it's not only productivity. I'm not just talking about productivity. I'm talking about every time that you allow yourself to be in this mode of being distracted, your brain is in a mode that is always aroused, always needing novelty and attention, different things all the time. And this is proven to have many, many bad side effects, such as the cortisol being released in your brain for you being in this mode of, always quote unquote aroused. Your brain is releasing cortisol, and that hormone is really bad for sleeping. It causes you problems in sleeping. It increases your level of stress, like I said before, and many other things. Another thing that gets impaired with attention fragmentation is your memory consolidation. You don't have enough time to consolidate a memory. If you're working on something on shallow work and you keep switching tasks, your brain doesn't have enough time to consolidate that memory. So your memory gets fogged, you don't remember things. It's almost like you don't even remember having done that. That's because your brain didn't have enough time to consolidate that memory. So with attention fragmentation, you're not only just forgetting to, where you put your car keys, for example. No, it gets way worse because you are lacking the ability to form long-lasting memories. One of the things that gets killed with attention fragmentation is creativity. Because according to neuroscience, creative insights happens when you're in this called diffuse mode thinking, which is when your brain is relaxed and you're allowing your brain to be relaxed, to consolidate other parts of the brain, to be creative. When you're constantly being stimulated, your brain doesn't get the chance to get into this state. And lastly, attention fragmentation also brings a huge cost to human relationships. That's why people are having a hard time having a conversation, a deep conversation with someone without being distracted either by their phone, by a notification. They can look eye to eye because of this attention fragmentation. We see this happen in conversations all the time when the person is physically there, but the person's mind is elsewhere. The person cannot connect. And it's not because the person is not interested in what you're saying, it's the lack of the ability to focus due to attention fragmentation. So let's talk about some solutions here, okay? I promised you 3 tips to fight against attention fragmentation, and I'm gonna bring you these tips that are neuroscience backed, okay? So what's happening here and the way that you're gonna change how you're gonna do things is going to directly affect and fight against attention fragmentation in your life. Okay, the first tip is very easy for you to do. I would say it's simple but not easy, because for a lot of people this is not going to be easy. And the very first tip is the attention restoration technique. It comes from Dr. Michael Posner and his research about attention, because he treats attention like a muscle, okay? The more you train, the stronger it gets. And this is how it works. You're going to do a single point focus training for 10 minutes, okay? Ideally, you do that every single day and then you keep increasing the time. What it means that you're focusing your attention into one single point, and that point could be an object, that point could be a book that you're reading, okay? But you focus your attention on that and just that alone for 10 minutes. During this 10 minutes, your job is to simply pay attention to your mind and see if your mind is wandering. And then if it is, which most likely will, bring it back. What this exercise will do, it's going to increase your neural pathways for focus, okay? Like I said, at the beginning, it's going to be hard for you to do even 5 minutes, let alone 10 minutes. But your attention will grow like a muscle. So keep doing it and you're going to be able to increase the time. The second tip is what I call strategic technology boundaries. So with this exercise, what you're going to do, you're going to eliminate all notifications from your phone, all vibrations, even phantom vibrations, which happens. It's a phenomenon when your phone is with no notifications, but you still feel that, or you still sense that notification coming. Sometimes you have your phone in your pocket and you literally felt your phone vibrating, and when you check, there's no notification, there's nothing, and your phone is not even on vibrate mode. So that's what is called phantom. You feel the phantom vibration. And it's interesting because research shows that just by having your phone near you while you're trying to do deep work, it reduces cognitive functions in 10%, even if your phone is on silent, just by having that phone right there. It's funny because this happens because your brain is allocating part of its processing power to just resist from checking the phone. Just the resistance alone from checking the phone is burning power in your brain. And after you create this strategic technology boundaries, what you're going to do is you're going to put some attention blocks in your schedule. You're going to block that block of time, okay, just for you to pay attention to something and nothing else. And that block is going to start maybe with 15 minutes, and then you're going to keep increasing that block. But the objective is, if you decide to use that 30-minute block to work on a spreadsheet or on a presentation that you have to do for work, you're not going to do anything else other than that. You're not going to check phone, you're not going to check email, you're not going to do anything else. And yes, like I said, in the beginning, this is not easy because your brain is so used to just keep checking notification and keep task switching. But the more you train this, the more your ability is going to increase for you to be focused. The third tip is, do not treat your brain like a task manager. You have everything that you got to do. It's got to live inside of an output list. It cannot live inside your brain, because the more stuff you have in your brain without the output, the more your cognitive load is going to be. And our brain is exactly like a computer when it comes to the RAM memory, okay? So the processing memory. Now, the more things that you have uploaded in your brain or in terms of data, and you don't have that output somewhere in the list, your brain is going to be working very heavily, or it's going to be very slow. So having lists is not a matter of, oh, now I'm super organized, I have lists. It's a matter of survival for your brain cognitive load. You're going to write things down that will live in this list so it doesn't have to live in your brain. And every time that your brain needs to remind you of something, remember, that spends energy. That's an energy output that is happening right there. So when you create a list, your brain gets a relief. So the bottom line after these 3 tips is that your attention might be broken, but the good news, you can fix it. Remember to train your brain like a muscle. Remember that every time that you have the intention of doing this exercise that I mentioned, and just pick one of the exercises. You don't have to do them all, just pick one. Every time you intentionally do that, you are increasing the level of attention in your brain, and you're going to reap the rewards. And if this video helped you understand what attention fragmentation is, and more than that, it helped you with tips and strategies on how to get your attention, your focus back. If it did help you, don't forget to give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything. And every time you subscribe and you hit that bell, you're going to receive notifications of the weekly videos that I'm doing about time management, productivity, neuroscience of habits, and a lot more. I always appreciate your support. I hope this video helped you today, and I wish you an amazing and blessed day. I'll see you on our next video.